it's getting to what should be quite an exciting time with this project, because if it was in the summer, I'd be really itching to have a ride up and down to basically shake down where there will be problems. As it stands, we're in that bleak midwinter, so that's not going to happen quickly. As you know, it's a project bike that was bought for parts really, but then turned into the main project. Had some interesting times with the engine, I keep saying that, but now it's pretty much a going concern. Intend to bleed the brakes. I've done the electrics, everything else is good to go, the wheels on, chains bloody adjusted, nothing to stop it being ridden once I've bled the brakes. Get the tank on. Now I'm not doing any cosmetics on the tank. Get the seat on, and the seat has a pad that's laughable at the moment, but at least I could ride it if need be. And then I'm going to get it out of here and put it into my other garage. That way, if we do by any chance get a 2 or 3 day run of good weather, dries up, no salt, I might be able to have a bit of a ride on it, shake it down a little bit. I'm going to do this using the old school method of bleeding. If the pedal and the actual bleed nipple's not too far apart, that's usually quite easy to do. A little bit easier than opening these bottles sometimes. That's typical. Maybe I'll take it off camera. They have a silver seal on here to keep the moisture out, and I find if you put in 2 holes just like this, makes it easier to pour and a lot less messy. Now when you're putting the brackets on your custom build, do think, will I be able to get the top off this reservoir? Yes, we can in this case, but it was a close run thing. Always make sure you start with a really full reservoir. You don't want to pump any air into the system. And of course, brake fluid, paint, not a good combination. If you think it might spit back or anything, get something in the way of it. I know paper might not be quite adequate, but it usually works for me. Now when I say old school, what I mean is you have a spanner on the bleed nipple. You open it and put some pressure through so that the fluid moves through, and then you close it. Then you let the pressure off the pedal or the lever. Now there are 2 schools of thought with this. One is you open it, then you press and it pushes the fluid through. The other school of thought seems to be you pump it a few times like that, and then you open it to let the fluid through. Now, I was of the first idea, which was open, push, close. However, I've seen so many people do this, build up the pressure, then open it, let it come out, close it, then let off the pressure, which I've been doing for quite a while. However, recently, a couple of YouTubers that I watch that I really respect, I've seen doing bleeding the way I used to do it, which was open, press the lever, close. So I'm starting to wonder if I was right and I've seen a method that perhaps isn't quite as good. It all seems to work, so I'll probably stick with the pump up method, but I will think about this a few times. If you've got thoughts on this, put it into the comments. Now what you're looking for is that there's no air coming through, and once you're happy that there's no more bubbles coming through, that's it. You can pack up on that particular one. Make sure you put your diaphragm back in, so to speak, and get that fiddly cap back on. Now if you've got any brake fluid on any paintwork, damp cloth, get it off as quickly as you can. I find the best method is to try and not get any on in the first place. Having completed the back and put the little dust cap back on, onto the front. nice clip to hold the actual top of the reservoir on here, so I'll take that off first. One tip is when you're taking the diaphragm out, they always seem to have drippy bits of brake fluid on them. So if you keep the cap of the reservoir handy, put the diaphragm straight into the cap. That way, no drips anywhere. So pump up the pressure, open up the valve, see the fluid come out. Now for the front one, really I was just running fresh fluid all the way through. I didn't expect to see any air, and I didn't. Make sure you keep that reservoir topped up. And if it's old fluid, you try and get the old fluid out of the reservoir and top it up with fresh before you start pumping through. Saves you time. Usually you can see it's a different colour coming through, and when you get the nice clean colour coming through, you know you've done. Once you're finished, pop the diaphragm back in, put the top on, and in this instance I've got a safety clip, so I screw that on as well. I think this is mostly to stop people wandering past and thinking, oh, I'll just take that off. Before I take the bike off the lift, I also thought I couldn't remember putting any grease into the swing arm bearing, so I thought I'll do that first. And then bike off the lift, ready for the tank and the seat, which hopefully won't be too much of a big deal. I used to think this workshop was quite spacious. Now I think it's quite tight. That's the three main things finished now. I've bled the brakes in this one, did the electrics, and I sorted out the oil lines. Now I want to get the tank on and the seat on so I can give it a try, and like I said at the beginning of this video, hoping to put it in the garage so that I may get a run up and down the road. However, there is a little bit of dirt inside the tank, so I think what I'm going to do is in the next episode, I've got some new stuff for de-rusting the inside of tanks. I'm going to try that, get the tank on then, get the seat on, and then hopefully do a first run down the road video as part of that. So if you're interested in that, why not subscribe? Follow along. We're getting up to loads of stuff, and the sun's coming out occasionally. Let's hope for the best.